You're listening to Old Head Mindset with Malik and Ricky Tillman.
We're watching Andrew Tate's interview with a psychologist. So, for context, Andrew Tate went to prison for a period of time, a few months at least, and he was, locked away, and he's going into this about his kind of psychological state when he was in prison, as well as his psychological state generally, and his kind of approach to life. And from what I heard, the psychologist really pushes back on a lot on, or at least explores his kind of way of thinking, and I think it's going to be really interesting.
I don't feel like I had time to feel pain, or I didn't feel like I had time to be a victim.
You had nothing but time.
No, I didn't have time.
What are you talking about?
Because everyone outside still relied on me. So when I would get on the phone, people would.
Is that avoidance, though?
I don't know.
Do you keep busy? Do you avoid your feelings by keeping busy, being on the computer all the time?
All the things I had to do still had to be done. Just because they threw me in a cell, it just made it more difficult, which means I have less time than ever because the difficulty's been increased. And when I would get on the phone, we wouldn't discuss how I'm feeling. I'd be worried about how everyone else is. They'd be like, how are you? Yeah, I'm in jail. What's going on with this? Are you okay? Are your bills paid? Are press hassling you? I was worried about fixing everyone else's problems from jail more than I was concerned about myself or my own mental well-being. And if I
think about that in terms of the balance between thinking about yourself and thinking about others, because there's something I learned about this recently. Do you have any perspectives?
Well, tell me what you think.
Well, I learned recently that I think you told me this, that it can be seen as noble to not worry about yourself and worry about others, but that comes at a cost. It's not free. You can't exploit yourself or your own interests or how you are forever. There hits a point where it's going to hit a diminishing return, and it's going to start affecting other people and start affecting the people who you're trying to protect by not making the issues about yourself. Yeah, that's what I learned personally, because I used to have the same approach of don't worry about me, what's the issue that needs to be fixed? And it wasn't immediate. It took a long time of me doing that for it finally to kind of come full circle and lower my productivity, lower my kind of attitude about life, because there's a part of you that feels like it's just unfair, and you can carry around this noble kind of idea of like, I'm resilient, I can have things unfair to me and I'm going to be fine. But I feel like it can kind of leak out over time. That's how I feel.
Yeah. I'm listening to him talk about his situation. He's locked up in jail.
Yeah.
Right, but his business and everything has to keep going.
Business, yeah, team. Yeah. He's a multi-millionaire.
Right.
Yeah.
So what he's trying to do there, he's obviously very self-aware, where he's more focused on what's going on outside as opposed to what's going on inside. And sometimes you have to do a bit of both. Sometimes you have to focus on what's going on inside as opposed to what's going on outside. But what's keeping him sane is that he's able to focus what's going on outside, because he can't control what's going on inside. And that by doing that, he's sort of keeping his sanity and keeping himself going, because it's also a bit of a distraction to his situation. So that's his strength. He's identifying that he needs to stay on top of what's going on outside, because it has to keep running. And in doing so, he's keeping himself in a good frame of mind, because he's still productive.
Yeah. So do you think that's a coping mechanism? Like, is
Definitely.
it a way, do you think that in prison he's actually really hurting, he's struggling, and as a way to cope, he tries to control outside forces? Do you think that? Or do you think he's just, he's not struggling at all, it's all he can do?
No, I think he's struggling. I'm just going to put myself, if you put yourself in his situation, I would be trying to do the same thing. So if you're behind bars, everything's told to you what to do, when to do, and all that. So you really don't have a lot of control.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of stuff that's still going on outside that you can be very proactive in.
Yeah.
And so...
But there is a balance, I think. Like, for a guy like him, he might think it's, don't need to worry about me. But my new perspective is that sometimes you should kind of indulge that, like other people caring about you. Like when someone asks you, how are you doing? Like to say, yeah, like I'm struggling, I'm worried about outside things and so on.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think old me would have had this approach where it's kind of like just be a go-getter and do what you need to do. But
well, yeah, you set yourself up for failure if you don't be honest. When somebody asks you how you doing, you have to honestly tell them.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to be honest.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to come across as, okay, well, I need help, or I need I don't want to come across as feeling weak or vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because you want to be honest. It's the ones that don't want to be honest that say nothing. There's nothing wrong with me. Oh, I'm good. That's not being honest.
Yeah.
So you pay the price for that. So you have to be careful about that. So
yeah.
Okay. Pain's is an awkward one. I don't know if I felt pain because I don't feel sorry for myself, and I've developed this mindset of such absolute accountability that even though what happened to me I believe was unfair, and even though I'm completely innocent, I didn't think why. I didn't think, why is this happening? I didn't think, why me? I didn't think, oh, this is unfair. Like none of these things crossed my mind. I was like, this is garbage. However, you can't become the most Googled man in the world without with every light has a dark, right? Like, let's be realistic about this.
Yeah.
I'm thrown in a jail cell. Do I belong here? No. But am I here? Yes. I was pretty logical about it. And I was like, okay, I've got a lot of things I need to get done. And I would feel angry if I couldn't get them done. I don't think I felt pain. Now, I'll admit, I don't sleep very well since I've left.
Why?
I could admit
Do you
that.
know why? I heard you say in one interview that you have nightmares.
I do have nightmares. Yeah.
What are your nightmares about?
I don't think they're about anything. I just have like almost like an adrenaline rush out of nowhere while I'm sleeping, and I bolt awake.
No thoughts, no memories, no
real
visions?
thoughts, no real story.
Fear. That's fear.
I guess it is, yeah.
So so let's just, your the dreams are a reflection of the unconscious. And if you're having nightmares, there must be some unresolved fear that wants to get worked out.
I believe so, but then also I love the idea of that. This is
what?
Of having unresolved fear. That sounds like the most interesting thing in the world. If someone were to say to me, Andrew, take this pill and your unresolved fear will vanish, I would say absolutely and utterly not. That's not fun. The fun is there's something in my mind which I don't have complete control or complete understanding of yet, and it's not detrimenting my day-to-day life really. Okay, I lose a bit of sleep, but this sounds like an interesting journey. It sounds like I'm in a new level of the video game and I've been thrust into a dark forest and I get to do something brand new, and I'm really genuinely not worried about it.
You're not, you shouldn't be worried about it. It's
I'm
just
not worried
where
about
you are.
I'm not.
When I hear that, I hear a guy who's very in tune to who he is, to the point that he doesn't have a problem with fear tagging along.
Okay.
Right? So when he say, okay, I don't want to get rid of the fear, that means he's fearless because he can handle.
Or at least he's not scared of fear.
Right. And that's what the therapist is saying when you want to get rid of the fear. Most of the time you do want to get rid of the fear, but fear can be turned into a positive thing. It can be a driving force. It can be something that keeps you on your toes. It can be something that keeps you sharp. So,
but it can also be a poison, and
it can be a poison if you don't know that it's there. Like he knows. It sounds like he knows.
He's saying unresolved. He's saying unresolved fear. So that makes me think that. So the psychologist is bringing up some fear within him, Andrew, that is unknown. Like, of course, Andrew knows his known fears, such as like being poor or, so I feel like he's actually talking about his unknown fears, like things he doesn't know about, maybe deep trauma and so on. And that he's saying he doesn't want to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like, to me, that is ignorant. To me, that I think that's denying yourself growth in an area, because, although that I feel like fear can be motivating, but it can also come with it, be it like a double-edged sword where it kind of hurts you somewhere else. So I don't know, but you do raise an interesting point that like it is fearlessness that he's implementing.
And I think also from him is it keeps him more closer to being human.
Yeah.
Because if you got the element of fear, then he's still alive and it's still driving you to keep pushing, even though you don't want to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
worried about it. And I'm also not like, oh, I need to fix this. I don't care. I'll have nightmares and I'll wake up and then I'll either go back to sleep or I'll continue to work. And that's life.
Maybe life will keep giving you situations in which you'll have to confront that fear to resolve it.
Why would I want to resolve it?
Well, because
I mean, if I'm really that tired, I'll sleep.
no, but fear creates distortions in our mind, right? I mean, fear is the seed of evil.
Yeah.
Right? And so we want to know what we're afraid of, because if we block our fear, we're susceptible to bad actions, right? And fooling ourselves about what they are, rationalizing.
Yeah.
So I would argue that it's actually vital for you in the position that you are in and the responsibility that you have to actually confront your fear in a very real way, which probably goes back to your childhood. I mean, your dad was, the haircut story, and I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I feel like he summarized, the point really well. That when you said fear creates distortions, that's kind of what I was touching on in that. Like, there could be some utility to fear, but it could just be harming your overall worldview or whatever it might be, which I think is interesting. But on Andrew's side, he's like, I feel like he would say that you can't go through your life tiptoeing around what you do and do not fear, that you just kind of have to go through life. Now, he didn't get a chance to respond to it, but I think he would say that, when the opportunity comes to resolve it, he'll resolve it. But, trying to unearth, spend time unearthing what your fears are, like you said, could be a symptom of fear itself.
Yeah, we've always been told to conquer your fears. So how do you conquer your fear? You have to address them. So the therapist is talking in general what we normally have been told. If you have a fear, you want to address it. Now, depending on what the fear is, it depends on how traumatizing it is, or where is it coming from. If it's a childhood thing or something, listen at this video. He's talking about his time in jail.
Yeah.
So he woke up having while to sleep was in jail. So is that an underlining factor from some other fear, or is it because he went to jail and he felt a certain kind of way?
Yeah.
So it just depends on what you identify what the fear is, if you can identify what the fear is. And he's saying he doesn't want to figure it out because it's not that important.
Yeah.
That I'm thinking about that little boy. It must have been fucking terrifying.
It is, but I do think I had the best father on earth.
I'm not disputing that. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good that came from your father. I'm not disputing that your father was a good man.
Yeah.
When you say he could go from 0 to 100 like that for a little boy,
It's scary.
it's fucking scary.
It is, but
that fear has to be in you. You don't know what the fuck he's going to do.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
But I think that's prepared me for life fantastically. And I also think the fear.
But have you reached a limit?
Do you see what I mean by turning things that are weaknesses to him? He owns them, but I don't feel like him owning his weaknesses from a place of maturity. I feel like it's from a place of bravado. Right. Yeah.
I take it the other way. I think it's a place of maturity because he's put a lot of time into who he is, understanding of his background and where he comes from. He just turned a negative into a positive.
Yeah.
And that's what shaped him for the person he is. What good is stewing on and crying about your past if you haven't conquered it or tried to conquer? You just land with it and say, I'm this way because of my past. He's saying his dad has helped shape him and made him a stronger person because he couldn't figure him out.
Have you of the video game? I mean, you're facing all these charges, right? So something, and maybe this is what you need to go through. I mean, you're on the hero's journey, right? And this is inevitable in some way. But also along the hero's journey, you have to die to be reborn.
That's true. And I agree with all of that. But if I'm genuinely, I psychoanalyze myself all the time, which is one of the main reasons I don't believe in therapy and psychoanalysis. Of course you can. I do it myself.
You don't think that's hubris?
No.
You can know your own mind, that you don't need reflection from others to see yourself?
I disagree with the psychologist, and I fully agree with Andrew here. I think that you can psychoanalyze yourself. I actually think the best form of analysis of your psyche can only ever come from yourself. Not to say there's no utility in getting feedback, but I agree with Andrew here. 100%. That a well-trained mind can really, pull at the strings and figure out how you're thinking to yourself. What do you think?
I think that's pretty much what all heads is all about. It's about mastering your mindset.
Yeah.
So, and how do you master your mindset? You have to put time in studying your own mind.
Yeah.
What works for you and what doesn't work for you. So, I believe you can. You might not hit all the marks.
Yeah.
Like a well-trained therapist can do.
Yeah.
But you can get busy knowing who you are and how you think. It's very, very difficult. And it can't be done without putting a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
So I understand the difficulty of it, and you might not do it as good as some trained individual, but I think you can psychoanalyze yourself.
Yeah. I think the danger, which Andrew would agree with, is that the belief that you can't psychoanalyze yourself and only a professional can, because then you won't help yourself. You'll only ever go, well, I can't help myself, I need someone to help me for me.
I find it interesting because I thought, listening to him speak, I would have thought he would have done a lot of psychoanalyzing himself.
Who, Andrew?
Andrew.
Oh, yeah, he's saying he does.
Right.
Yeah, I think Andrew, what I meant was, I think what Andrew would agree with is there's an issue with thinking that you can't psychoanalyze yourself and that you need a psychologist to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's an incorrect issue
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
You can see yourself perfectly.
I think that, no, I don't think I can see myself perfectly, but I think that life is a perfect reflection.
But why not get help? Why not? Like,
Because then it becomes a crutch. I like the idea that I can rely on myself to fix myself.
well, you have a coach.
I have this same issue, and I'm open to it being wrong. In fact, I don't think it's wrong. I have this kind of complex thing where it's like I have to help myself. I don't want some kind of outside person, because to me the mind is also like a puzzle, and I don't want anyone to help me with it. I want to figure it out on my own. Not purely on my own. Like I read and I listen and I ask for advice and so on.
Right.
But on the psychoanalysis front, I feel like it's a meditation you do with yourself, and you figure out your own mind and so on. I have that as well. I have that to an extreme sense where it's like I need to figure out this issue. If I have this issue, and when I say I need to, it could mean asking you, or it could mean asking other people and so on, right? To help kind of stimulate that thinking. But I understand where he's coming from here, and most would say that he's wrong for that. You need to kind of talk to a therapist or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with what you ask for. So if you think that way, you better be making sure that you're getting it right.
Yeah.
So
if you get it wrong, you can.
It's all on you. So you taking all the burden of trying to figure out and think for yourself.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's always two heads are better than one.
That's true. Yeah.
So
that's true.
it's
Maybe
always,
I wouldn't say ego, but maybe it's maybe ego is the right word, but it's not like thinking that you're better than other people. It's more just like the satisfaction of knowing you did it on your own.
well, is it any satisfaction?
Well, to some it would be.
I don't see how, because you put so much energy into it and gone through so much pain, and it takes so much more effort that I don't see how at the end of it you'll have more satisfaction. I could be wrong.
So to me, like I'm a philosophy student, and philosophy isn't just like a process. It's like art. It's like psychological puzzles or like philosophical puzzles. Like in philosophy, we have thought experiments and all of that. And a philosopher will create a problem, a really interesting problem, and put it out into the world, and then other philosophers will try and figure out this issue. It could be ethics, it could be metaphysics, it could be any other branch of philosophy. Like, for example, I'll give you one. It's the sentence I'm about to say is true. The sentence that I just said is false. So it's a loop, and it's like an eternal loop. And like a philosopher might create some abstract problem, and then whoever finds it and discovers it kind of gets the credit of being the one who solved the issue. And it's like an art, and so like some people have like a kind of ownership of like figuring out issues, and or like Andrew Tate. He's kind of a modern day, not a very esteemed one, but he's kind of a modern day philosopher because he's pushing out a philosophy of life to the youth, which is what Socrates did. Not comparing Andrew Tate to Socrates, but the process is the same. And I feel like because he's doing that, his mindset is a brand. And how can you push a mindset brand in his mind while also getting a psychologist to figure out your thoughts? So I feel like that's why he has this ownership of like, I'm going to figure out the issue, no one else. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, though, all the great minds, great philosophers came together and discussed a lot of different philosophies, right?
Yeah.
That was a fun thing for them. You have like-minded people discussing whatever topic it is or whatever philosophy it is. It's always better when you have someone else involved.
Yeah.
If you go off and just figure it out and have a philosophy of life on your own, that's your philosophy. But it may be working for you.
That's why I brought up ego, because that is true. There are philosophers who work together. Then you got those lone wolf philosophers who want nothing to do with like Friedrich Nietzsche or someone. They wanted nothing to do with anyone else. They just did it all on their own, and they had the ego that thought that they were the best. And so I feel like it's just a mental thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that a crutch?
No, it's not, because he's teaching me
What's the
something.
difference?
That's fine. But like, if I had an affliction, I would like to be my own doctor. And I think with your mind, you can do a lot of it yourself. And I think if you have a very strict framework in how you measure how successful you are as a human, and I do it through competence and achievement, I say, which mindset do I need to achieve as much as I can possibly achieve?
Right.
And I can measure that in real time. I can measure that in literally dollars and world championship title belts. I can literally measure the success. I'll say, okay, well then this is the mindset I need to have to be as successful as possible. And
What are your thoughts on measuring how successful you are as a human through competence and achievement and money and competition titles?
That's his philosophy, and that's what drives him. So, and that's what makes him happy. So that's his thing. So you can't really say that's wrong.
Objectively, no, but to you,
For me,
is that something?
no, I think it's wrong because in life, it's not what you get; it's what you become. Is most important. So that's my philosophy. So the more important thing for me is what I become, and so that's across the board. A job, I go to a job. It's not what I'm necessarily getting; it's what I'm going to become in this job. Is it going to make me miserable, or is it going to make me feel a certain positive way?
Yeah.
So that's his philosophy, and that makes him happy. So everyone has their own ideals, and how this thing works is you get busy discovering as you get older, get more wiser. Some of the things you think doesn't work for you, and some does work, and then you need to start refining that, fine tuning that. So I'm sure he's changed over the years, and that's what he's happy with that. So I don't have a problem with him thinking that way.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I don't think that it's tricky. I think yes and no. Like world titles and money and so on is a measure of competence, yes, but I don't think competence is necessarily a measure of worth as a person. Um, in a way, it is.
In a way, it is.
In a way, it is.
Yeah.
But fully, in the totality of it, I don't think that necessarily competence is the be all and end all of, like, let's say if you are put on here on earth by a creator, because what about people who are wheelchair bound and not to say that they can't be competent, but let's say their talent is running, they love being a runner, but then they get in an accident and they're wheelchair bound. They cannot be competent in the area which they have a calling to. And I don't think that they're less valuable as a result. They're less valuable in the world of what's it called? In the world of running, they're not valuable at all. So there is an issue in a, we are in a capitalist society where people can determine their worth by their position in the capitalist, economy or environment. And that I don't agree with. I think that he actually can create a dangerous message to young guys in thinking that their value is attached to their income. In a very specific way it is, because the more money you have, the more power you have, the more influence you have. If you have an idea, you can spread it more. If you want to do good, you can do it more with more money and so on. So in a material sense, it's foolish to say that money and power isn't valuable. Of course it is, but there's a distinction between inherent value and material value, like value of yourself and your soul, and value of your position in the world. Now, we are creatures of the world, and we can't change that. As much as we might be spiritual, we are still bound, by the four walls of reality. And if that is so, then our competence and ability to move in that world is always going to be important. So it's like a yes and no thing. But I just don't want people to get the wrong idea of thinking that, your success in terms of money is the determining thing of your value to a person.
No. That's right. But going back to the competence side of it, that's important.
Yeah.
Because competence creates happiness.
Yeah.
If you're a competent person, you're gonna be happier in that area that you're competent.
Yeah. If you feel useless to the world, you're gonna feel useless to yourself.
So that creates value in your life.
Yeah.
Right. So there's everything is in balance. Yeah. But if you put that ahead of everything else, I'm not a good person unless I'm competent on all levels, or everything I do I have to be great at, then there's a problem. Right? Yeah. Because everyone brings to the table a certain amount of skill set. You can always grow and become, but you bring a certain amount of skill set to the table, and you're not going to be competent in everything that you do. You have to grow to be competent.
Yeah.
So that's where the stress comes in, when people put that expectation of, well, everything I do, I must be good at it.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm making is that he's talking about competence in the context of his mental health, and that's probably more what I might have a little issue with, because you can't fix your traumas by bettering yourself. I don't think at all. I think that bettering yourself, which sounds good. It is good to better yourself, but if you're bettering yourself as a way of fixing your traumas, then I think it's wrong. You can't. If you're insecure about some aspect of yourself, you can't fix it by achieving something in life or getting more money. That won't fix that hurt. Like if someone felt rejected as a kid, and then so they get rich to get back at the people who told them he was nothing. I don't think that's a good motivator, personally.
Well, people use that all the time.
I just don't think it's good. I understand this might be a unique position, but I think that you see it in the music industry. You see it with me and a couple guys, were in the Perth music industry. A lot of guys were fueling their desire for success through some pain that they felt, or something that told them that they were inadequate.
Well, you get that all the time. What do people do when they have a breakup from their relationship?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
That's automatic. That's the first thing people want to do. Well, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go out and be this great person.
It's a restoring of power. They have a perceived loss of power, and they think that in order to restore that perceived loss of power, I get back that power by achieving something that was more valuable than what I lost. So I'm going to get a better girl. I'm going to get a better, position in life, and you're going to regret doing that to me. It is not a good motivator for success. I think that, like you say, being inspired by, whatever it is you're doing is what should, push you forward. Like, I don't think getting revenge I was on another podcast and I talked about this exact thing. Like it's a revenge thing of like getting revenge at those who told you were nothing but becoming something. It's that I don't like.
Well, that's the go-to pill that people go to is revenge.
Yeah.
And, you don't. It's not a good motivator, revenge, but people use it as a motivator all the time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they're chasing what he's saying, competent. So if I can become more successful, you can't really get more successful unless you're competent in that area.
Yeah.
In most areas. So it sort of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? When you're talking about competency.
Yeah.
Anything that's deviating me away from that needs to be addressed and concerned and dealt with, and I can do that myself. And I think the fear that if it's fear that's waking me up from nightmares now, it's just because I understand there's a very big apparatus, a very big enemy which I cannot destroy and I cannot beat coming to get me. So I do think that wakes me up. I think the fear is healthy. I think I'd be stupid to not be afraid. But I don't necessarily want the fear to go away because I have no problems feeling bad.
Well, it's not about going away. It's coming into deeper relationship with it and understanding that there's fear that's happening in real time, but there's also fear that may be in your psyche somewhere, in your body that's connected to your history. And that may need to be resolved because otherwise you're projecting things out that you may not be seeing reality totally clearly. That's the thing, right? Like, is there a way that you're not seeing things perfectly clearly?
Well, then we go back to what I just said about perhaps that's true, but if I measure myself purely on competence and purely on achievement, whatever I think and whatever I'm doing is obviously fantastic. So I'm very happy with the mindset I have. And then we go into the argument, which is a level deeper, is am I supposed to be happy? Am I supposed to feel good?
No, it's not happy.
No, of course, but this is what I don't understand about people, especially men in the world today. Why are they so worried about being afraid? Why are they so worried about, I was afraid every time I fought.
Yeah.
I fought anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I don't let fear guide what I'm gonna do. I do what I'm supposed to do regardless of how I feel. So I don't see anything wrong with feeling fearful. I don't see anything wrong with feeling stressed or under pressure or anxious. All these things men are trying to get rid of. And I talk about men specifically. I gender this because I'm a man. I don't know how it feels to be a woman. But all these things that people are trying very hard to get rid of from their brains, I don't see why they need to leave. I will argue the point that if I feel anxious and pressured and stressed and fearful, I will get more done than if I was happy. I think if I was happy, I'd just be hedonistic and just wasting my time.
What do you think?
Yeah, I love what he's saying because what he's telling me is he's got a healthy relationship with fear
And pain, yeah.
and pain because you don't need to get rid of it. You just need to know how to deal with it. So as I said to you before, in life, it doesn't matter what happens to you. It's how you feel about what happens to you. So he's saying that he doesn't have a problem with when fear creeps up because I can cope with it. I deal with it. Now, when you don't deal with it, you want to run away from it. There's a problem.
Yep.
You can't really run away from your problems or your fear. You can try.
Yeah. There's a term called the backwards law, I think it was called, by a philosopher named what's his name? Alan Watts. He said the pursuit of positive experience is a negative experience, and the acceptance of a negative experience is a positive experience. And it's pretty much saying that if you run away, if you keep obsessing over running to good things, it just creates a negative life. And if you just accept a negative situation, it's a positive and freeing feeling. And it reminds me of that. And just for context, he was world kickboxing champion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know.
I love this saying, when you learn to embrace the things you fear the most, your life is transformed.
Yeah.
Now think about that. Is because what we tend to do, we want to try to run away or avoid the things that we're fearful of. Public speaking, most people will run away from that. I don't want to do it. But the minute you embrace that idea and you walk towards it, and you start chipping away at it, your life becomes something different. Because not only the fact that you did that fear, you prove to yourself that you can deal with a fear. So now you have something to latch on to. Say, well, I dealt with one fear, I can deal with another one.
Yeah.
So you embrace the idea. And the minute you do embrace the idea, you relieve a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So embrace things that you fear the most. Go all in.
Yeah.
And I think that life is suffering and pain, and you're here to go through it. And the sooner you get used to the taste, the more successful you're going to be. I have no interest in trying to change the flavor, my friend. The flavor of life is pain, and I will eat all of it. And it doesn't matter if they put me back in jail or not. I'm not sitting there going, how can I be happy in jail? I will sit in jail and say, yes, this sucks. It's supposed to suck. Yes, I'm not enjoying this. Yes, I'm anxious and paranoid. And yes, that guy might stab me. And yes, I can't sleep, and I miss my family. And this is what's supposed to happen to me. And this is how I become the best man I can possibly be. And I'm going to succeed regardless.
You're very convincing. You're so good though, right? It's almost like I feel like you can rationalize anything, right? It's almost like a trick.
Magic trick?
Well, you're really good at talking, you're really smart, and it's almost like any question you can turn and make it work for you, which is great. It's a skill, but there's also a place where there's the potential for self-delusion.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not even going to sit here and say that I'm not delusional to a degree. I'm not saying that self-delusion doesn't exist. We all are, right? Let me give you a very simple example. Let me try and use an analogy. I think the only thing better than having everything you want is not wanting anything. Right? So I have every car on this planet. I have 40 supercars. Most people want a supercar. I have 40. But there's that unique 0.1% of people who genuinely don't want one. And I think that's more freeing than having everything you want, right? So the true mindset is not wanting anything. Most people, the best they can do is having everything they want. And I feel like you can kind of do this with the emotions as well. I guess my general consensus is that I don't think I can change or affect the world to the point where pain and suffering and bad things are not going to happen. So isn't it best if I just enjoy all of that? Doesn't that make me as powerful as possible if I say, oh yeah, okay, this is going to suck, good. I mean, I do it when I fight. Yesterday I was fighting, right?
So in philosophy, this is a recurring thing that pops up, a kind of a war between chaos and order, what they say. So he alluded to these two approaches to life where nothing affects you, or rather you are you don't want anything or you want everything. And like life is suffering, and the two strategies which seem to pop up a lot in philosophy is either you be strong and you reinforce yourself and your mind the best you can, and that's his approach, or which is to be indestructible, or the other way to deal with pain is to be like water, where anything that tries to hurt water will just pass through it. And it's like, say if something bad happens to you, you have, this is like Eastern Buddhist enlightenment where nothing hurts you. It's not that you're strong, it's that just the insults of life just pass through you. And he alluded to it there. He said that there are these two types of people, or like in terms of ranking mindsets, there's the mindset where I don't want anything, like pain doesn't hurt me, and the other side is in fortifying your mind the strongest that it can be, so that any pain that does hit you is insignificant. And it's really interesting he alluded to that.
Well, it's good to have those two examples, because this is what you have to do. And when life is coming at you, you got to adopt different strategies.
Yeah.
I love this Andrew Tate guy, the way he thinks, his mindset. So what he's saying, if it's hard, do it hard. You got to do it. I got to go to jail and face all these things. You got to do it.
Yeah.
We're good at sitting back crying about it. So it doesn't matter what happened to you. It matters how you feel about what happened to you. You better go to jail. It doesn't matter that you're going to jail. You're going to jail. That's how I feel about that now. So that's when the fear kicks in, or the dread, or you just can't do it. You don't want to do it. So he's like, if it's hard, man, I'm just going to do it hard. I'm on that. I'm on the same path as that. I love that. I love the idea.
Yeah. Well, it was a great watch.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening.
Yes. Yes. If you like what you're listening to, hit the subscribe button and follow Old Head Mindset Podcast. Thank you.